Python, you can define functions in Python like you can in basically every high-level language. Now, we talked about functions a little bit with Arduino too. We didn't use them a whole lot, but we talked about them and how to define them, how to use them. You can do the same thing in Python, and functions can be very useful. So a function is really just a sequence of instructions that are associated with some function name. So you make a sequence of instructions and you put a name on top of them. That's a function name, and then you can invoke that function using that name later on. So that's really all a function is. A function in Python starts with a def to define the function. And then it's followed by the name of the function, open close parentheses, and a colon. That's always what the first line looks like. So here we got an example at the beginning of a function. Say def test, I'll call my function test, put the colon there, and then after that I have my code inside my function, print a test function. That's my whole function. And then later on, that's my definition of my function. Then later on I type test, and I type test, hit return, and it will actually execute my function, printing a test function, which is what I told it to do. So that's basically how you define a function. Now, a few things about defining these functions. One thing to note is that, so here's my function. That's my function definition. Every function has to have a definition before you can invoke it and call it. Inside a function, all the instructions are indented, and this is really important. If you don't do proper indentation, Python will not understand the code. It will not run. Okay? So notice that word print, that print statement, is indented after the def. Right? Since it's indented, the interpreter knows, oh, this print statement is part of this function. Now, if it were not indented, if it were indented the same amount as the word def, so it weren't indented within the def, then it would think, oh, this must not be part of the function. The function definition must be finished, and now I'm moving on to other code. But because I've indented it, it knows, oh, this is within the function definition. That's really important. Indentation is one thing about Python which, on the one hand, is a pain, because in C, you don't need indentation. You can write the whole program on one gigantic line of nasty-looking line of code, and it'll work. Now, it's a terrible way to write code, but it'll work. Where Python, they force you to indent. Now, indentation, as I've often taught in classes, in C classes, indentation is important. You should do it as a programmer to make your code easy to read and so forth. But C doesn't force it, doesn't require it. Python requires it. So Python's forcing the programmer to do the right thing. The indentation is a good idea. Python just forces it. So idle will do this automatically, which means that once you type in the def and the colon, hit return, the next line will be indented. If you're doing this if you're doing it interactively, it'll be indented, and it'll keep doing that. Now, when you actually get to the end of the function, you don't want it to be indented, so you'd hit return and then hit delete to unindent it, and then you keep writing your code. That's how, if you were doing this in idle, that's what you would do. So once you've defined the function, you call the function, invoke the function, or call the function. The way you call the function is you type the name of the function, followed by the parentheses after it. Right? So with test, you just say test, open paren, close paren. Now note that you can have arguments inside those parentheses. We'll talk about those in the next set of slides. But that's how you would invoke a function. You give the function name plus the open paren, close paren, and hit enter, and then it will execute the function, like here. Thank you.